Welcome to another video brought to you by floatingcottoncandy.com and Robolabs, the manufacturers of the RoboJet Floss floating cotton candy machine. In this video, it's going to be a little bit different than most. I'm going to take you through a tour of my toolbox, so to speak, all the things I bring to the events that I run, to give you an idea of the types of accessories that I recommend on my website, and specifically highlighting the things that I present on the RoboJet Boss Success Guide page of my website. Again, that page is not publicly available. You have to visit the site, fill out a form, and specifically ask for a link. If you've bought a machine from us, then you've already probably received that page, or if you've made an inquiry. But if you've lost it, or if you're a new prospect considering a RoboJet Floss machine, just visit floatingcottoncandy.com and ask for the RoboJet Boss Success Guide. Be happy to send you a link. We don't make it publicly available, but obviously for people that are either using our equipment or considering it, we're happy to share. I say that right up front because a great deal of what I'm going to show you has been listed on the site. We provide external links to where you can buy it. Little, if anything, of what I'm going to show you is actually for sale through us. But in running operations for quite some time, trial and error, finding out what works and what doesn't, I think that probably most operators are going to want some of this equipment and or at least want to consider it. Even if you're not going to use it, it'll open your eyes to some opportunities. Maybe you'll find better products that work for you in your local market. But this is sort of a tour, because it's one thing to say, hey, these things are good and you should consider them. Here's an opportunity for me to show you exactly what I mean by that. I'll go through some of them kind of quickly. Some of them I'll have to move the camera in for a close-up. I won't really give formal mention of the names for all of them, or links or prices, because that's what the page is for, and names and links and prices can obviously change. So I might give rough approximations, but if I'm lacking some of the very specific details here, understand that's what the web page is for, and I don't want the video to become immediately outdated as pages and links and prices all change. So I'm going to start with some of the big things because they don't require close-ups, and then move the camera in and go down from there. Not everything listed here, of course, will have links on the site. Some of it, rather obviously, you can find on your own. You just may not have considered its applicability to running cotton candy vending. One of the first things I'm going to start with is the table that this stuff is actually sitting on is a really handy one. I've used a lot of different tables, spent a lot of money. This thing's called a keter, and it's actually a workbench. It doesn't look very attractive, but it has a nice carry handle. And the reason it's so advantageous, and this is going to probably be loud on the video, is its setup and takedown is just insanely quick. You push two buttons, the legs drop down, set it on the ground. It's got a little support you lift up to make sure it doesn't collapse. I won't do that here, but it adds another 1.5 seconds to set up. And then what I do is I drape, and I'll show you one of these. I just went to like a Joann Fabrics and I bought the heaviest duty vinyl they had. It's made for motorcycle and ATV seats. Cut it to length, drape it over the side, put a banner from Vistafront over the front of it. It does a pretty good job of making a decent setup, and it's obviously very quick. You drop it over, you put the drape over it, banner in front, and then the take back up is just as quick. You just reach up and pull the legs, and now the carry handle, and it's off into your truck, your airplane, your SUV, whatever you're using to haul things around. I like convenience, especially at the end of a 3, 4, 5, I've done 8, 9 hour events. So to have something like this with handles on both sides, and you probably couldn't tell from the picture, but there's actually a workbench shelf there, which is where I can put floss and extra materials and supplies. So they're around $60. People have told me they've seen them on sale for $30 to $40. Shop around, links on the website. A couple of these always comes in handy, either for actual machines or just for display and setup of materials. So a keter table, I think, is a must accessory. Another accessory, depending on how you operate, is this handy thing I got from Costco, but I've seen them at all kinds of sites, Amazon included, and there's links on my site. We've all seen portable fold-up utility carts. And I've owned a couple, but they're garbage compared to this, at least for my concerns, because what's different about this one is the fold-down platform also extends, very odd-looking contraption here, of a spinning three-wheel. And at first, even though I bought it and I understood what it said it did, I didn't understand how it did it. Because this platform is designed with a really long extension to go upstairs. Even when you're not using it to go upstairs, it's still better than any I've seen. I don't know if you can tell from the size of this platform, but it allows you to carry much larger equipment, and with the length of the handle, a much taller stack. And then it has hooks for being able to use like bungee cords or tie downs. But the real key is these spinning three wheels, because what they allow you to do is when you hit a stair, this thing will climb stairs up and down. The wheels will rotate and climb the stair, and the next wheel takes over. So it's, you know, even just curbs. It's amazing how much easier this makes life. And the fold down is just as quick as any other portable cart you've seen. Little push button in the back, slide them down, and the handle folds up. So this is a must-have. It's heavy duty. I think it's rated for 200-300 pounds. Never had any trouble with it. Real lifesaver. And I think it was in the $60 neighborhood. Again, I've seen them go on sale for less, but for what it's worth, it's a lifesaver. Absolutely must-have. If you're running events and have to haul equipment, which I assume you probably are, you wouldn't be watching this video. For actually hauling my equipment, I typically take 3 boxes of materials. It's a little overkill. I could probably get away with 2. There's 2 types of boxes listed on my site. The ones I'm showing you are the ones I actually use the most, and they are the Plano brand. Now the funny thing here is I like to get away with 1 size, but I can't quite do it. I have the Plano small box, and I'm using that word small, so you understand these aren't small. When I first discovered them, I thought, well, I'm going to need bigger than the small, but no. I use 2 smalls and 1, and again, I find this kind of funny myself. This is what they call a medium sportsman's box. So I don't know how big the large is. I don't need the large. You probably don't need the large. I don't think you could carry the large. I'd like to get away with 3 of the smalls. Can't do it. I could definitely use 3 of the mediums instead, but I'm space conscious, so instead of using 3 of the mediums, I use the least amount of space I can. That's 2 smalls and 1 medium. So why do I have 3 boxes and what's in them? Well, that's a lot of the other accessories, and here's where things get interesting. I'm going to take a break, bring the camera in so I can show you exactly what and why. Again, a lot of things I bring. I was a Boy Scout, always be prepared. Probably overpack, but I think you'll still pick up some pretty interesting tips. And if nothing else, you'll be able to see what I bring and how it relates to the suggested accessories that I have on that Robo Success Guide. Maybe make an easier decision as to whether you think some of that stuff will be useful for you or not. All right, starting with what I'm going to call box number 1, the medium-sized Plano Sportsman box, which has snap-down levers on the side, and also as I pull the lid off, you might be able to notice there's tie downs on the edge as well. So if you have to tie down to a roof rack or some sort of a tailgate lift, these are really quite nice. They also have a nice ridge here that seals, and this is for all 3 boxes, into a gasket. So these are essentially waterproof and moisture proof. Really good boxes, really durable, really tough, which is why I use them. I have some other boxes also linked on my Robo Jet Boss Success Guide that are a little bit less, about not quite half the price, but if you can afford it, these are the way to go. You can get this medium box on sale for around $20. When it's not on sale, maybe it's $30. Not a ton of money, certainly not to protect your business. So the reason I have to have 1 long box is because there's a couple long things I have to carry. One is my portable tube that I use for soaking when I'm using my 4-wheel cart. There will be a video made on how to construct this in the near future. Banners, such as the one that's on the front of this and that I use elsewhere. That vinyl material tablecloth that I use for making the utility tables actually look presentable. And then from there on in, mostly we're looking at plastic straws in a variety of colors, bamboo sticks in a variety of lengths, and I do carry some paper cones as well. I pretty much can carry 1,000 cones worth of sticks at any given time. And if you dig down deeper in here towards the bottom, you'll see I actually also carry the base and arms for assembling a gold medal tabletop display for bagged cotton candy. I don't do bagged candy much, but there is a place for it in the business. I do a separate blog article on this and probably make a video at some point. But there are times when you're at an environment that is so busy you can't make cones fast enough. And so what I'll do is I'll bring some bagged candy, put it on a tabletop stand so that if people, the line gets too long and people don't want to wait, then they will often just buy some bag candy. Sometimes I can add 10, 15, 20% to my daily sales, where again the lines are just too long for the RoboJet floss, so that will bring the customers in, but not everybody wants to wait 20 minutes or 30 minutes for a cotton candy cone. So they'll watch for a little bit, they'll be impressed, but they don't want to wait for their own cone. So I can still sell them a bag of candy right off the rack without having them wait and make money, then I will do so. At the very bottom, this won't make any sense until I do a future video on this, but I have some weights that I use as bases for display stands. That will be the purpose of another blog article and a video in the very near future. But big and heavy and long things go in this box, mostly the sticks and the banners. But then these occasional use things are hidden in the bottom. And so that's the point of this particular box. Again, it's the long box from my perspective, it's the medium from theirs, and I will also occasionally put in my standing tube stand in this box. It just depends how I'm packing, and the standing tube stand's in another box right now, and you'll see it, but it will swap back and forth depending on which event I'm preparing for, whether or not I'm bringing the 4-wheel stand made specifically for the RoboJet floss, or if I am taking just a regular table and I need a wet stick stand that I can put on the ground. So box number 1, my secondary box of accessories, and this one I could almost get rid of and do away with, but as it is, these are just sort of common accessories. So I have a promotional banner that from time to time is used. I have a box of Gordon Food Service has a like a USDA approved food containing sanitizing wipes. These I really don't use. I carry them just in case I run into that rare health department inspector that isn't going to be satisfied with ordinary sanitizing wipes, because these are in fact like FDA approved, and it's one of the few. You may have something like this local to your market. So if you run into that really picky government bureaucrat, these are safety approved for sanitizing food surfaces and food equipment, and never had to use one, but it's there basically as bureaucracy insurance. 2 types of trash bags, little ones, super heavy duty ones. I carry, you may find this useful, I carry a snake for, electricians use these for cable snakes, typically for pulling things within walls. Occasionally I'll find I have to route a power cord behind somebody's cabinet or under somebody's rug or something of that nature, depending on the situation I'm in. And these, if you're not familiar with them, it's a very flat, we call it a snake, it's very flat, stiff wire. You can really thread it under things and behind things very easily, and then coil it back up. So sooner or later, you do enough events, being able to slide that under a commercial carpet or behind a long cabinet display will make your life easier. I suggest carrying one. Again, that's the Boy Scout in me. You probably could go for a year or 2 and not need one, but that one event where you need it, it's a lifesaver. Carry an insulated mug because I drink a lot of fluid, but I don't eat while I'm performing. I have found that having cooking spray is very useful in humid environments. If you spray that on your bowl and your stator very light and then wipe it around so it's just barely a thin layer, it keeps the floss from sticking so much and makes cleaning up the bowl and the stator much easier. Again, certainly don't have to do that. I do. I carry non-dairy creamer and sweetener in another bin because I'm an avid coffee drinker. This is the soap dispenser for my health department approved hand wash system. Again, seldom need to use it, but if I do run into a health department professional who insists I have the approved hand wash system, this is it. And then I just cut a little hole in the top of one of these containers so that it never spills and essentially hangs by that inside. Because the one problem with these is if you have this stored any other way and you top that thing, I mean, this goes upside down in a hand cleaning system, like you can imagine you'd see in a restroom. The problem is it would spill all over. So that's my little solution. Always a full roll of paper towels, always a set of food service gloves, package of wipes. I use baby wipes, non-scented, non-chemical. I use these a ton to keep my hands clean without drying them out or applying chemicals to them. And then right now, this is in this bin because I don't need it for my next event, but you've probably seen a video or blog article. This is my wet stick stand for soaking. This is made to go on the ground, and if I need it for an event, then I will put it in that medium sports box. So this box is sort of optional things I really don't generally need. I probably could repack and get away without bringing this, but because most of them are secondary, I like keeping them in a second box that's not as important. So it's the one box that I can sort of set aside and not have to look into. I have found that having to hunt through boxes and not knowing what is where is a real pain if you're running an event solo and you really need to get something in a hurry. Knowing that those sort of less used devices are in a separate box makes my life a little easier. Primary box, one I access a lot. Any brochures, written materials, health department forms, other documents, contracts, just go in a flat pack here. And then I have the subdivided into 3 of these containers from, these are actually Husky brand from Home Depot because a couple reasons. One, they're only $10, which makes them quite affordable. 2, they're exactly the right size, as you can see, to stack into the Plano small box. And then 3, they come with a whole variety of dividers, basically in 2 sizes. The small little cups, which I use in some of the boxes, and the larger dividers that I use in a couple of other instances. Each box, of course, comes full. If you can't see this, I'll pull it out. Each box comes full with 2 of the large dividers. And then I guess it's probably 8 of these smaller cups. For the most part, I throw most of them away or put them in a box. Just use a couple in each organizer. But what this allows me to do is to store a lot of things I can get to very quickly, and with the clear top, I can see exactly what I need when I need it. So I'm going to sort of start in level of how I would set up, and I will just show you what I've got on hand. Some of it you'll probably find pretty useful. Some of it you might wonder why I have it at all. So box number 1, my handout brochures. Again, every event I hope to hand out little flyers that will get me hired for other events. And then business cards and holders. I figure, again, if you do a good job and you're professional enough, somebody will hire you for a birthday party, a reunion, or some other event. I carry 2 of these money dividers that you see waitresses and carnival people use. 3 pockets with a zipper in back, so I can have 1s, 5s, 10s, and then 20s zipped up. I have 2 of them because occasionally I do have an assistant. 1 big drying towel for drying hands and sticks, and then 1 cleanup wipe on that side as well. In the smaller accessory box here, I think some of this is kind of important, I have little finger cots, which are little rubber doohickeys you can roll over your fingers. Occasionally very cold environment, or if your fingers get super dry, or on some events I've done for as long as like 12 hours, I've actually wore my fingertips down enough that I couldn't use my thumbprint, for example, to access my phone security. So those are kind of handy once in a while. Carry a lot of Velcro strips, wire ties, things of that nature. Get an assortment of wire connectors for the RoboJet floss. Just get like 2 of everything that you can. You can buy a variety pack at Home Depot, Lowe's, Meijer, online, any place that sells hardware, Harbor Freight, and you get like 2 of everything. because you never know when something is going to come off, and any wire that comes off the machine will put you out of business. So just having 99 cents worth of connectors could be worth $1,000 to you. I also suggest you take your machine, or at least one nut or bolt off of most of the common parts of your machine, and you go to Lowe's, and they are all metric, so it's kind of important you do this ahead of time. Go to a Lowe's or an Ace Hardware, whatever you've got, and buy an extra one of everything. One extra wing nut, one extra washer, one extra brass washer, just basically one of every screw or nut or bolt you take off the machine, and then go in the inside and make sure you buy one of the main fuses. Take it out, take it to a hardware store, buy it. Might be $4 or $5. I've never blown a main fuse, but again, for $4, if it blows and it costs you a $500,000 day or a $2,000 weekend, that's a horrible waste of money to not have spent $4 on insurance. So again, never happened to me, but you know Murphy's Law. If you're not prepared for it, it probably will happen. So easy to prepare such a kit. And the risk of not doing so is always an unknown risk of how much it's going to cost you. But eventually, simple little things like that are worth their weight in gold. The other side, I carry a variety of hooks that can hang on carts. Some really strong magnetic hooks you can get off Amazon very affordably. And the magnetic hooks I tend to use for the metal carts, so I can hang up cleaning brushes and rags and things, have them accessible. These will make no sense until I make a video shortly on how to make a little display stand so it can help your productivity and your marketing. So that is something you'll have to watch for in the future. So this is sort of like the setup box. Oh, and then a whole bunch of little S-shaped carabiners in a variety of sizes. I find these handy not only for hanging things, but for banners, both large and small. You've probably seen them before. The only difference is I go on eBay and order them 5 or 10 at a time, and they cost 50 cents a piece rather than going to a hardware store or a Walmart where they'll charge you $1.99 a piece. So these kind of things, well, I'll go spend $10 and just get a wide variety of them, because when you need them, they're lifesavers, and if you buy them only when you need them, they cost a fortune. So kind of things I like to have handy. So that's box number 1 in setup, and so box 1 is pretty straightforward. Box 2 really sort of depends on what I'm doing. Generally speaking, these 2 boxes are going to sit in here until I need them. So I guess I'll go over the simplest one first. And that is sort of the maybe I'll need it box. The maybe I'll need it box is really just that. Healthy, high protein, high calorie snack bars and things of that nature, because I don't take breaks. I work straight through. And so something I can eat while I'm making cotton candy is important. Backup business cards, clear tape, duct tape. Clear tape I'll use, for example, on banners where I don't want it to stand out. The duct tape I'll use for power cords to tape them down so that people don't trip. Sweeteners, stevia and Splenda. As I said, I'm an avid coffee and tea drinker when I'm working, so they fit there nicely. Some gum, some hard candies, don't often need them, but there are events that are very dry and not humid, where you kind of get dry even if you're drinking liquids. A box full of cleaning materials, different abrasives, Scotch-Brite, sponges, emery papers, and then just a spare bin that I tend to throw things like paper clips and rubber bands in. So that's the maybe I'll need it, maybe I won't bin. Often I don't, but it's there in case I do, and designed pretty much so I don't have to go look for materials elsewhere. And then this bin is kind of important. So this is the sort of the critical stuff. Scoop. I really only need this for 2 things. One, I use this to clean the bowl. As floss accumulates, I'll use a brush or a wooden skewer to knock the floss off the side, and then this allows me to very easily scoop it and dump it in water so that I can get rid of the spare floss. And then if you are using a 25-pound bucket for really big events where you're going to use a ton of floss, this will help you serve it up into the floss head quickly. And there's links to that on my site. The reason I've used this after going through about half a dozen is because you can squeeze it. It's made to be squeezed, so you can turn it from a large opening into a nice small opening, and that keeps you from spilling your floss as you fill your floss head. The pliers here will make sense in a minute. I'll come to them later. I carry a digital thermometer in case I have to prove my hand wash is warm enough for the health department. Again, that seldom if ever comes up, so it's one of those insurance things for $5. This brush everyone should own. It's one of the few things I'll say, buy this. It's the Scotch-Brite, specifically the grout and tile cleaning brush. And the reason is it's very firm bristles, but it won't scratch anything. It's very narrow. It is perfect for cleaning the stator and getting the floss out of there if you're in a humid environment. And even if you're not, a lot of floss can start to collect in the stator, and when it does that, it cuts down your airflow, and then more floss wants to collect to it. So when I refill the bowl, I'll use that and just brush out the stator. Nothing works as good as this. I've probably been through 30 brushes, and now I buy 2 or 3 of these. I store them downstairs. It's the Scotch-Brite, and it's the best I found. If you find a better one, let me know, but I can't imagine you will. It's like $3.50, ridiculously overpriced for what it is, and indispensable at the same time. A little spool of like baling wire, dark green, a must-have. Bag of zip ties, must-have. A real must-have. Go to Harbor Freight, Home Depot, Kmart, I don't care where. Get yourself a little set of wire cutters and crimpers, because that little accessory kit I told you for 99 cents to have all the different ends for quick connections won't do you any good if you don't have a way to cut, strip, and then crimp those things back on. And I did once have a connector come off at an event, and you know, you're out of business. And unfortunately, I was only out of business for about 3 minutes because all I had to do was strip the wire, put a new connector on, and crimp it. But without the crimpers and without the connectors, you know, that's the end of your day. So well worth its weight in gold, a cheap one like that. And I just bought a cheap one because I'm only going to use it probably 3 times in its life. It was like $4. So these 2 devices, you might think you know why I would own pliers. You probably have no idea why I would own a Lennox drywall cutting tool, and certainly not one that flips out. And the reason I own this is going to sound funny, but trust me, the plastic straws that I use for a lot of events are awesome. They're lightweight, they don't mold, they don't rot, they're dimensionally stable, they don't twist, they don't warp. However, if you're making larger servings, sometimes the cone won't stick to them and you'll end up spinning the plastic inside the cone, even if you do get it wet. And it's because they have no texture. So there's 2 ways to put texture on a stick. If you're just doing a couple sticks at a time, you're not busy. What I did was I went and bought a brand new and cheap pair of pliers from, this was Harbor Freight. I specifically looked for ones that had really sharp edges here, and noticed that the inside of this is kind of a circle. So what I will do is I'll take a stick out, I'll gently grab it here, scrape it through, literally pull this down the length of it, and it will scratch the entire length of the straw. Dip it in water, and now when I spin the floss on it, not only is it a little bit wet, but it's got little grooves, little scratches in the straw itself, and that makes the world of difference. Now I can, on a straw, I can make a 2-foot wide ball, and that first starting grooves or scratches really allows it to hold a lot better. So a $3 pair of pliers. I'd never use it on metal. Don't do anything that will dull these edges. You want this almost obnoxiously sharp. And of all the pliers that I picked out, I specifically felt for ones that were obnoxiously sharp. And I think the cheaper ones are sharper, I don't know. But when you want to prep a lot of straws at once, that'll slow you down. So I use this tool, and I have 2 different blades, and I've yet to decide which I like better, but it came with 2 different blades. I apologize, I know that's making a lot of noise. I tend to use this finer tooth here, but sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I think this deeper tooth works better. They're interchangeable. Essentially, all I'm doing with this is I'll lay down like 7, 8, 9, 10 straws at once on a flat surface, and I will apply this to it, and I will press at an angle, and I will scrape the whole length of the straw except for the handle. I don't really need floss to attach to the handle portion where somebody's going to hold it. I'll roll the whole straw as a bundle, like rolling logs. I'll do a half turn, I'll scrape it again, and I can prep 10 straws in 8 seconds. Then I'll throw them in the water to soak, and it's the same effect as using the pliers. Pliers work for 1 at a time. This will prep like 10 at a time. So it's an odd way to use the tool, but until I find a source for textured straws, this is what I do. Now, a lot of people don't bother with this, and if you're making servings that are only maybe this wide or this wide, you don't really need to. The problem occurs when your serving size gets larger, the mass gets heavier, and that's when you start to get free spinning inside of the cone itself with the plastic. So depending on what kind of servings you're making, you may not need this, but any hardware store, it's a heck of a great tool. So bin number 1 here on the left, you've already seen my backup blade for that tool. So I'll put that in. Toothbrush, the only thing you really need to clean the RoboFloss, and you don't necessarily even need that, but it comes in handy for getting sugar out of crevices. I carry not a whole set of measuring spoons, because that would be more than I need and a waste. I just carry the 2 that come in handy. If I'm mixing up 4 pounds, I use the teaspoons. If I'm mixing up 5 pounds or increments thereof, I have a tablespoon. Utility knife, obviously useful. Flashlight, obviously going to be useful at some point. And then 3 pens. A marker for displays, things of that nature, a pen because you need it, and then a counterfeit detection pen because every now and then somebody wants to buy a $5 serving with a $50 or $100 bill, and I don't feel like losing that much money on that kind of transaction. So a $3 counterfeit pen from any office supply store makes great sense. Bin number 2 gets used all of the time, usually at the end of events. I do carry a full little set of metric and SAE. Obviously the metric is for the RoboJet floss, but I figure if I'm going to carry the metric, I might as well carry the SAE because you never know what else you're going to work on. I carry the Allen wrench that happens to fit the chassis release bolts. I carry a very small wrench to fit some of the electrical components on the RoboJet floss. A 1/4 inch drive, you don't really need more of that for most operations. A nut driver with the 7mm nut already removed from that set and put on because that's for the electrical connections for releasing the coil. A little multi-change driver that gives you 2 different sizes of standard and Phillips, because that is going to pretty much just be that one driver there. Allows you to take everything you need off for cleaning. And then I do carry a Deepwell 8mm, which doesn't come up often, but if you ever have to take the nut off that center post, you need that 8mm. That won't allow me to completely disassemble the machine, but in terms of any cleaning and the most major type of maintenance, taking even the platform off, that's all you need for this machine. And this kit here is pretty much the tools of the trade, and all you really need unless something drastically goes wrong. So 3 bins, 3 different sort of arrangements of parts on their necessity and severity, and they all pack into 2 small boxes and 1 medium box. All right, so wrapping up where we began with a pile of material that follows me to all of my events. I don't want to say that there aren't additional things that I bring to events. Obviously, if you've watched the other videos, you've seen I own 2 different carts. If it's an outdoor event in inclement weather where vendors are expected to bring their own booths, I do have a pop-up booth, and certain events are going to have other requirements not addressed here. And there are things I've shown in other videos I'm not presenting here as well. But this core establishment pretty much is going to go to any event that I have, and sometimes it's all that I need to bring to the event other than, of course, the RoboJet floss machine itself. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everybody needs to bring everything that I do, that you need to organize it the way that I do, or that these are the only choices you can make. But through trial and error, I can certainly say that I'm very happy and satisfied with the equipment that I bring, and that I share this because getting to this level of equipment, these specific items, none of these were first-time choices. Whether it's the boxes, the organizers, the way that I scrape the straws. I mean, everything in here is a 3rd, 4th, 5th try. So if I can save you time and money by making some of the same choices I made, even if it's not the final choice, you may find a better solution down the road. But if I can save you time and get you closer to the end goal for what's going to work best for you, well, then that's part of the value I try to bring to the operation. So, any questions, feel free to visit the site and ask. Again, if you haven't seen the RoboJet Boss Success Guide, where I have links to these products, none of which that I sell, by the way, by all means sign up and ask for that. I'd be happy to share it with you. And I hope that you find this to have been an informative and enlightening video. And I hope to see you back here next time.